Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Aston Villa 1, Southampton 0. It's the morning after the night before. How are you doing, mate?
Yes, I'm good, mate. I'm good. You can tell we're growing up a bit because a couple of years ago, this would have been done at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, wouldn't it? But
It would have.
adult responsibilities and adult life as Rome has taken over, meaning morning Villa fillers have become all the more common, haven't they, mate?
They have. I prefer them. It gives us more time to think about it. I think there will definitely be Villa fillers that are done at like 1:30 in the morning this season. Just not while we're playing as crap as we are at the moment. But, and before we get into that, mate, we've got a word from today's video sponsor, and that is the amazing guys over at OneFootball. Now, if you guys aren't aware, OneFootball have been powering the channel over the past month, and the great thing about OneFootball is Dan and I use this app every single day. It's so beneficial, not only for leisure, but for what we do in our jobs. Obviously, we both work in football. So OneFootball is a fantastic app to keep you guys up to date with the latest and greatest football news, transfers, live score updates, stats, you name it. OneFootball's got it. I don't know about you, mate, but when I was celebrating Jacob Ramsey's goal last night, pretty much instantaneously, I felt my phone buzz. And I knew that it was OneFootball and not my dad being like a minute behind on the stream, who wasn't at the game. The minute-by-minute updates are fantastic. And personally, mate, I can't speak highly enough of the app.
Yeah, for sure, mate. It is, as it's titled, the ultimate sort of football media platform. News, scores, stats, more, everything that's happening around the beautiful game is happening right there on the platform. They've got live games too. They've been showing a bunch of Serie A this season. I mentioned on the last podcast, they're showing the Super Classico as well between Barca and River Plate. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can watch live on the app as well. We couldn't recommend it more, could we, mate?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So if you guys haven't checked out OneFootball, make sure you do so by using the top link in the description. It helps Dan and I out more than you could imagine. Now, mate, yes, I wanted to start things off to the gentleman that stopped me yesterday and said that he loved the channel. Thank you very much. We were walking past each other very quickly, and it was a quick exchange. I didn't get to ask your name. I would have liked to, but if you are listening to this, mate, you caught me off guard. But thank you very much. It was very, it made my day, to be honest. Even if it had lost, I'd have been buzzing walking out of the park last night after hearing that. So thank you very much. Genuinely means the world. I don't really know how to feel about this one, mate, because maybe this is my own fault for towing this line, but I've said to you and on the podcast and to everyone really, I want to be completely and utterly convinced tactically by how Steven Gerrard sets Aston Villa up in this game. And there was no glaring holes, so maybe I'm just being facetious, but I don't know if I am. And maybe I've set myself up for failure expecting that, but I did expect after, I don't want to label Manchester City as a tactical masterclass, but what was a significantly greater setup and performance by Villa that we've seen under Steven Gerrard since he's come through the door, really. I expected something a bit more like the next steps, and I don't quite know if we saw that yesterday. And I think what makes it worse, mate, is that's 2 games now where I think I can genuinely say Southampton are one of the worst fucking teams to have come to Villa Park in recent memory. How bad were they?
They were awful, mate. They really were. Look, they were really poor. They were really poor. And I did feel for them. And Ralph Hasenhuttl, he was raging. Oh, my God.
Put the 3-piece on and everything for Liz.
Yeah, he did. And let's probably a word on the tributes and everything before the game. It was pretty magical, wasn't it? Like to see the lights go out and see the green of the pitch and everything like that. It was pretty amazing.
I think that's how we should play. We should have all the lights off, just lights on the pitch. Yeah. That was a vibe.
Yeah, it looked amazing. It looked amazing. So well done to everybody at the club for setting that up. It was a pretty great tribute, I thought, mate. And it always, on a Friday night, there was something quite magical about it. So, yeah, that was really good. Southampton, on the other hand, not so well set up, not so magical. I came away from the game yesterday and I really wasn't, I was the same as you, mate. I was the same as you. And I must say that overnight, I've warmed up a little bit to some lovely gentlemen who put kindly all of the Sky Sports post match on Twitter that I was able to watch after the game. Thank you very much.
Doing God's work.
Because yes, I've watched some interviews with John and Stevie, and they've really changed my mind and how I felt about that game, because both of them, what was relieving was that I was dreading going into that post match and hearing Stevie say, "Yeah, much better today. Really pleased with the boys," and like glossing over the fact that it wasn't a very good performance. But one of the first things that both John and Stevie said was that we didn't play very well. It wasn't pretty. We're not particularly happy with it. We know we can play much better, but the pressure was on. We had to win in front of our home fans, and we had to do it dirty, and we had to get gritty, and we don't want to win games that way, but we did it today, and that's what matters. And I was like, yeah, okay. I was really pleased to hear that they both accepted that we didn't play very well, and that we both didn't just gloss over it, paint it as a hard-earned victory at home and move on. I think we had to play a very different way to the way against Man City, and both you and I referenced on a pre-match match that we struggled to break down teams that don't play very well at Villa Park. And there were so many... the one thing I was most relieved with is we didn't concede. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but so many times have we done that in recent years. And I walked away thinking, you know what? You have to admire the fight, the grit, the fact we didn't concede late on. We seemed so determined to get that 3 points. And there is something to like in that. And for want of better performances, we go into the international break in a relatively good spot. We just got a win in a really, really must-win game at home. We've got a draw with the champions-elect, I think it's fair to say. And we've got, I think, Forest and Leeds the other side of it, which are two winnable games. And like, I sort of look at it and go, you know what? Maybe it's not all doom and gloom. I think there's so much room for improvement. But I tweeted that obviously Felipe Coutinho was left out of the Selecao. He wasn't called up to the Brazil squad for the first time in a little while. The Brazil manager mentioned in his sort of presser that there's a few names on the fringes that could well force themselves back in. He's got some real competition this season, and he played like he had a bit of a point to prove. And when Coutinho's got that, look, I don't think it was an all-time Coutinho performance. I don't think he was at his best. I don't even think it's the best we've seen him in a Villa shirt, but he was the best player on the park last night for me.
Yeah,
I thought Ty was outstanding as well, and I suppose we'll come on to that. But when he's got that hunger and he's got that fight, we see a different side to him. It's what we saw when he first joined Villa, when he had that same point to prove. When he came away from Barcelona, he was nowhere near the Brazil squad, which is where he wants to be. He's so desperate to go to this World Cup. And he came to Villa and he played like he was trying to re-announce himself on the world stage. And I felt like we saw a bit of that again last night. And it felt like he was going to make things happen. And look, as I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that it was like, you know, the best we've seen from Felipe, but it was so much better than anything. His best game this season by far. Maybe his best game if you include the last few games of last season as well, mate. So there are positives. And for me, Tyrone, Coutinho, probably on a Villa point of view, probably led that.
Well, when was the last time Coutinho made 84 minutes, mate? I think that's quite telling in itself as well.
Very true.
I think, it wasn't Leeds away, but Leeds away is coming up. So, Phil, you know, same again, please. That was a fantastic performance. That was probably one of his better performances, aside from maybe the dream debut, I think you could say. It's funny, I'm looking at the SofaScore ratings. They've got Phil down as a 6.4. Now, I think
that's harsh.
And this is what bothers me about the numbers, right? Because if you look at, first of all, 92% pass accuracy, 65 touches, one key pass, made 5 crosses, attempted 2 long balls, only completed 1 of each of those, respectively. Not fantastic. But then you look at the ground duel statistic, engaged in 13, only won 4, engaged in no aerials, lost possession 18 times. But the numbers don't show that being a creative player and having to express yourself, it comes with that risk, and you can't quantify that. You can't put that into a rating out of 10. So for people who may not have watched the game, you know, or maybe caught it on TV, couldn't quite see everything that Phil was doing. I took a mate with me, and he was in awe of Booba when he played, because when you watch on TV, you don't really see what Booba does, and obviously that's a whole other thing, mate, isn't it? The injury.
Don't honestly, I can't deal with it.
Is it almost worth it? The fact that he
man.
went through Che Adams for it, though. Does that almost make up for it?
I suppose if it's going to go one way, it's going to go one way. You want it to be that.
Exactly. But no, I hope that this is a turning point for Phil. I hope this is a turning point for Stevie, because as you say, mate, it really felt like he took that a mission for the Selecao personally. And that's great. That's what we want, right? Ty, again, fantastic. The thing I found very funny about John McGinn, and we've all been guilty of this, so it's no shade. It's absolutely no shade to anyone, because he has been stinking. And the fans let him know that yesterday. The fans, you heard it, right? He didn't have the best reception, but as soon as he clotheslined fucking, God, what's his name? Musa Gineppo, all of a sudden it was like John McGinn of the Championship days, right? And everybody loved him, and everything he threw himself into, and every time he touched the ball, whether it was a bad touch or not, he got cheered. I just found that quite funny, because I know there was quite a few people around me, mate, who was saying, "Get him off! He's shit. He's this. He's that." But that's just the fickleness of being a football fan, I guess. Again, mate, I think I was really impressed with. I think what this game really did highlight to me, and I think I finally made my mind up. And there's nothing that we can say or do that will ever change this, mate. Ollie Watkins is not a striker. He just is not a striker. And he can think that he is. Stevie G can think that he is. That's fine. In my humble opinion, Ollie Watkins is a wide forward, because every time this man was pressing and chasing the ball and coming off the centre halves and finding himself, isolated with a fullback or isolated with a centre half out wide in space, he looked so good. There's just then nobody for him to give the ball to, because he's the guy who should be receiving the ball. And listen, on his day, Ollie can be fantastic. He's incredibly frustrating. You guys who listen to the podcast know we adore him to bits, but you kind of take it as it comes with him. Like, he's an incredibly frustrating player and an incredibly frustrating Aston Villa team. And again, it's no shade, but I want to say, maybe we play him in that wide left position. But if I'm being honest, mate, I was surprised that JJ didn't play in that position after the Manchester City performance.
Well, this is that forward line. I really don't know. Leon, man. Leon.
We don't want Craig Butler in the comments, mate. Careful what you say.
I just don't. I adore him, and I want it to work so badly. But he got the ball 4 or 5 times in the first half, and it just wasn't happening. He seemed so caught up in his own head. And I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, the Bundesliga is so transitional, and he's such a counter-attacking player, and I just don't know if he's suited to these kind of games. I think there's going to be games where it works for him, games where it doesn't. But I just think that whole forward line is really needs some pretty major surgery. I think some hard decisions are going to need to be made. I mean, Ollie, like, good value for around 10 goals a season. You're not going to get much more than that. I think it's the same with Danny Ings nowadays, to be honest with you. Like, I think both of them are nailed on for 8 or 9 goals in this season. Don't think either of them are going to set the world alight. I think we're going to be relying on goals from the midfield and stuff like that to get us through, which isn't going to cut the mustard, really. I hope the boys step up, but I don't know. On John McGinn, I feel like he's trying too hard. Yeah, I feel like when he's throwing himself around and he's paying 110%, like he could have so easily, on another day, so easily been sent off yesterday. So with
a competent referee, by the way.
Yeah.
What a shocking performance.
There was before I think he got booked yesterday. I can't really remember, but there was 4 or 5 challenges where I'm like, they're on the borderline of being a yellow, and I'm like, I know that's his game, but it does feel like he's trying to be everywhere. He's throwing himself into things, and even the thing where he got up yesterday, he had a bit of a tussle with Gineppo, and it wasn't even Gineppo that fouled him; it was Ward-Prowse, and it's just you sort of feel like, mate, just chill out. I feel like with his passing, it's too frantic, and he's trying to do things 1 or 2 touch, and it's mate, just And I think it's just the pressure, and he's got the armband and he wants to lead by example, and he's trying to be the John McGinn that we know and love. But I just sort of want to give him a hug and be like, mate, just take it down 10%. Like, chill out. Like, I don't know what's going on there. I'm surprised that Douglas got drops, but you saw when Douglas came on, like immediately he played that, that really nice ball with the outside of his boot. He sort of stabbed it. I think it was through to Bailey. And you just sort of think that's the composure that like you need to play with in this Villa team, because we're not a close-knit bunch. And if our captain's playing at 110% and throwing himself everywhere and the passes are going wayward and he's diving into challenges, it's like, I don't think it sets the tone.
Yeah. No,
so I do feel like he needs to drop that. And I think that calming influence of Douglas was good for the team.
Yeah. To go back to what you mentioned earlier, mate, about the interview, maybe it's because he was there with his mate that we got a much more honest and candid interview. I don't want to be too cynical about it because I appreciate it. I did appreciate it. But at the end of the day, things do still have to get better. And I'm optimistic that things will. I think the win has definitely, give him a bit more credit in the bank. As I say, I want to see a convincing tactical performance. And I think Leeds is a very good opportunity for that, because Jesse Marsch will be serving a touchline ban. And I don't know. Leeds do look very good, and they've had some good results so far this season. But I think they definitely can be hurt. Special mention for Ezri as well. I thought he was great. Looks like he's getting back to his best. It's amazing what a competent midfield does for your defenders, right? Boubacar Kamara, absolutely devastated. Hope it's not too serious. Supposed to be going away with France. I suppose we'll know more about that as the
Stevie did say he was worried in his post-match about that injury. So
God, he said the same about bloody Diego as well, didn't he?
He did.
It's a shame that Den Donker, he came on. I know he's a no frills player. Didn't really touch the ball all too much, but great to have him come on. I think he did a few important things off the ball. I think he knows what to do positionally, how to deal with players. There's a few. He only managed 4 touches. One aerial that he had was only dispossessed twice. Didn't really pass the ball despite having the ball, according to SofaScore here. But yeah, it looks like he could potentially get another opportunity now, depending on the severity of Booba. But he didn't shit the bed, so no complaints really. And yeah, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. We're like 2 subscribers off 5,600, and we've been like that for like a week now. So subscribe; it'll mean the most. Road to 6,000 subscribers. If you enjoyed, hit a like, comment your thoughts below. If you haven't already downloaded OneFootball, make sure you do so using the top link in the description. It helps Dan and I more than you can imagine. Up the Villa.